All I want to know is, what happened? What happened to all of this talk about how the Ableton push was going to take over and how it was going to push the MPC out the way and how everybody was going to run over to the Ableton push and throw their MPCs behind and machine users were going to run over to the Ableton push and all of this stuff? What happened? Because right now, ain't much really going on. Bolo! All right, so today, of course, we're talking about the Ableton push, and we're going to talk about a few things on why the Ableton push is not as big as it could have been. Now, you guys know I'm an MPC guy, have always been an MPC type of a guy, but when the Ableton push did get announced and when it was supposed to be released to the public and everything, I was one of the people that kind of questioned, is the Ableton push going to be this massive thing that everybody was talking about? Now, the hype was real. The hype was very real, but then soon after, it died out very quick, and I believe that they made a few mistakes. Now, before we get started, this video is just my opinions, and I'm just expressing my opinions. Don't know if it's true. If some of this stuff is not right, please go into the comment section and please correct me, okay? So I'm just going to speak on why I think the Ableton push did not become as big as what some of you guys thought it was going to be. Now, it's two things that kind of played a major role on why the Ableton push was not as big as what some of you guys thought it was going to be. Number one, it was production, and number two, it was marketing. Now, before we get to talking about that, I will state this. The Push 3 is actually kind of dope. It's pretty cool. Like, I actually used it. I made a whole video on it. It's on my channel. I went to my guy, Jay Black's house. I got to sit down with it. He showed me how to use a few things with it, and I actually made a little beat on it too. So I was actually very intrigued by this unit. Now, Ableton didn't send me a unit. I guess they felt like I wasn't worthy of a unit. It's all good. But yeah, they didn't send me a unit, and you know, over the years, I've took my jabs at Ableton saying that I don't like the program and all that stuff like that, but I don't think it's a terrible program. I know I make fun and make little jabs and stuff like that. I just can't get jiggy with the program. Like, it's just something that I am not into, okay? But I have made videos on it. I made videos where, you know, I made beats with it and everything, but I just can't get with it. And as much as I tried, I just can't get with it. But hey, some of you guys can't get with FL Studio. Some of you guys can't get with Studio One. Some of you guys don't like Logic. You know, everybody has a personal preference. I just don't like Ableton, and I express it, and it is what it is. I guess that's why they didn't send me a unit. But I have found something to be very interesting. I have noticed a lot of people who are Ableton push users that have now went out and bought MPCs. Like, I got a homeboy that's, you know, he has an Ableton push. He was one of the ones telling me, oh, Bolo, I'm telling you, this thing is going to be huge. People are going to be switching over and all this stuff. And then recently, he went ahead and bought an MPC Live 2, actually using my link from zounds.com. Yeah, shameless plug time. If you guys are looking to buy anything, whether it's a MPC or Ableton push or whatever for your studio, make sure you guys go ahead and click my link in the description and head over to zounds.com. They have a whole bunch of stuff on the site, and they have a bunch of stuff on the site that you can get with no credit or background check, and they will still ship it to you within 2 days. So if you guys need to get any equipment, make sure you guys go ahead and click that link in the description and head over to zounds.com and get you some gear today. Come on, y'all. I had to throw that in there. It was right there. I had to throw it in there. But let's go ahead and talk about why this thing wasn't as big as what some people thought it was going to be. So first thing was production. Now, this thing actually came out, I believe, December of 2023. And leading up to that, they had a ton of videos and they sent some units out to some people or whatever. And the main thing that really kind of messed this up was the shipping. So from what I've been hearing, and I could be wrong, so if I am wrong, please let me know in the comment section. Some people have ordered the units, and then it took a very long time for the units to get there, okay? And it almost seemed like they were taking orders first, then they were building units, in a sense. Now, I don't know if that's true. that's just what somebody kind of told me, okay? And the person who told me is not a big YouTuber or nothing like that. It's just that he waited a while and it took some time for his unit to come. And he was like, I wonder if they just kind of like taking the orders and then they just trying to build it and just release it, at a certain time. Because even though that they dropped in December, they were taking orders before that and people were still getting their units well after that. So it was kind of like a thing where people had to wait a while to actually, get their unit. And then when they finally got the unit, some units weren't working right. With every company, you have some units that may come that's not working the right way. It's a brand new thing, so that's how, some units were, but some people were having some problems with the units. Now, this is not a new thing, so I know some people be like, well, it happens all the time. It even happens with a Kai. Yes, it does happen, and it's happened before. But during this time, this was like the first time with a hardware unit where so many people were trying to order it that it took so long for it to come. Now, in a Kai's defense, you got to understand that most of the people who are using the MPCs and stuff like that, they are older men. And a lot of these older men had MPCs before. So back in the day, when a new MPC dropped, it wasn't like people were lined up outside the music stores to pick up an MPC. A lot of times we had to wait on our MPCs because some of us just didn't have enough money to go get it. And so a lot of times we would work up, save our money up, and then we would wait a while to get the MPC. Now, if you were like a super producer at that time, yes, you had the bread to go get it. But a lot of times with the common consumer, we didn't really just jump on those MPCs that day unless you already had some money. And if you did have the money, you would go get it. But most of us had to save up for it. And then plus, you got to understand that the MPC users are hardware guys that just so happen to get software, where the Ableton people are software guys that are going to hardware. So if you're an Ableton person, when you will order Ableton, you pretty much got it right then and there once you made that order. Now, when you're trying to get a push or a hardware unit, you have to wait for it. So it's kind of different between the two different companies, if you guys kind of catch my drift. So with a lot of Ableton people, they're trying to get their stuff like right then and there. With a lot of MPC guys, we're used to the wait. I never got an MPC the same week or the same day it dropped. Just never happened. Well, until, YouTube, influencer, you know how that stuff goes. But yeah, that was a huge issue. And then word got out about it. But they did try to straighten some things out saying, hey, you can upgrade the unit over time. You can do this, you can do that. And it was still kind of enticing. It just seemed like more at the push. It was a whole bunch of software guys that were trying to go into the hardware type of a way that just really couldn't get it in a sense. And still, a lot of people who do have the Push 3, even though it's standalone, they use it with their computers. So I don't know. I just think that with a lot of people ordering it, it didn't get there on time. And with the type of people that were ordering the Push, I think they were expecting one thing and they got something else, and they just ended up using it with their computers, which you could have just got the regular Push for all that. Now, the next thing is marketing. One thing that I did notice is they did send a few of these units out to a few people. And they didn't send a few of the units out to a few people as well. And I think that they kind of missed the mark on that in a sense, because I believe if they would have generated this huge online influencer type hype, I think that the units would have probably sold a little bit more. However, even with the people that they did market it to, they used it for the time being when they had to use it, but then over time, nobody really did too many more videos on it. And then I think the reason being is a lot of times people who use these hardware units, especially when you have all the buttons and stuff like that, you really have a hip hop type of a crowd. And I think a lot of people who did hip hop wanted to know what the Ableton Push could do. And I noticed that with some of the people that they did send it to, it wasn't that much of a hip hop influence with it, if you guys can kind of see where I'm going at with this. And I think they sent it to the people who I think would be a safe bet, but I think that logic was kind of off. I think that pretty much everybody who had an MPC who was in that world. I think that every single person that was an influencer at that time that was pretty big in the MPC world, if I was at that company and I said I'm trying to push out a product, I'm trying to find all the top MPC influencers and I'm trying to get that unit in their hands. And that's not what happened. And once you look at it, it was some hype around it, but it was more of the MPC people who didn't have it that were talking about it, including me. Should I have gotten a unit? I don't know, because I'm not really an Ableton person like that. But there was other people that are Ableton users that use the MPC and use the machine and use all this other stuff that I believe should have gotten the unit because they are familiar with Ableton. They're familiar with standalone production. I believe that they should have gotten a unit, and I believe that would have helped out the sales of the Ableton Push 3. Because even if you look at my video, I went in there with an open mind with it, and we had a great time using it. And because, like I said before, it's not a bad unit. It's actually pretty doggone good. But I think just trying to get people familiar with it, I think that they should have had a more urban approach to actually trying to sell the product. They did have a little bit, but it was nowhere near the way that like Akai does it. Like if you're somebody and you have an audience and you somewhat even work on an MPC, they're going to try to find a way to get something to you. The software, the hardware, the expensive unit, the more cheaper units, whatever, they're going to send those units out and they're going to say, hey, we might take a loss on these units, but we're going to gain back so much more because we have a ton of influencers influencing people to get these units. And that's why right now you have people still making videos on their MPC X that came out in 2017. You got people still doing videos on the MPC Live 2, the MPC X Special Edition, the MPC Key 61, the MPC Key 37. You got people making videos on this on the daily because of what they did so far as marketing to the masses. And just to be honest, I think that's where Ableton kind of lost out. I think that they should have sent it to at least the people who use Ableton and the people that use the standalone like MPC units or the Machine Plus units. I think that that should have been the ultimate play, but that didn't happen because I was looking for a lot of people who I follow and, I wanted to see, what their take on it was, and they didn't get one. And they didn't make a video on it. I'm like, well, they didn't send him one? Or they ain't send her one? What's going on here? I noticed that they were sending other people some, but it was like, it's not what I'm really looking for right now. But hey, I'm not a marketing genius like that. I just make YouTube videos. This is just me looking from the outside in. Maybe they should have did it like that. Maybe it would have worked. Maybe it would not have worked. I think that they should have tried to get a more of an urban presence with it. Now, if you guys think that they did do good enough, let me know in the comment section. If you guys think they didn't do good enough, let me know in the comment section. Oh, and one last thing. I think one thing that really turned a lot of people off. What I don't understand is with Ableton, they have a great ecosystem when it comes to using their hardware with their software, and so does the machine stuff. With the machine, any piece of their hardware can work seamlessly with their software, no problems. I believe Ableton and Native Instruments does an excellent job when it comes to pairing their hardware with their software. Akai does a good job as well, but it's much better on those two than it is with the Akai stuff. Like right now, we're still waiting on MPC 3 for the software. We're going to see how that turns out when it does, finally come out. But right now, what you can do with Ableton, with the Ableton Push and the Ableton Push 3, great. What you can do with the machine software and any one of the machines, whether it's the machine or the Machine Plus, they work seamlessly. That's great. However, why did they not bundle the software with the hardware? To me, that's like kind of greedy to me. It just seems like, okay, you can get this Ableton Push, but you got to go ahead and just get the Ableton Lite. You can't get the full software. You got to just, can't get that. And Ableton is already kind of expensive. Like you got to pay like $600-700 for the program. And then if you buy the push, you got to pay for that, then still have to pay to get the actual program. That was kind of crazy. Now, they did kind of fix it a little bit now because they have it to where it's bundled, but it still doesn't make any sense. Like if you paid for the Ableton push, you should have got the software with it. It shouldn't have been nothing else said. You should have been able to get the software. Like, I just don't understand that move. But hey, I don't work over there. Maybe they know something I don't know. It's just kind of crazy to me. Now, like I said before, it has some great features in it. I actually had a good time using it. It just wasn't my thing. It just wasn't my thing. And, maybe if I would have had it a little bit longer and I may have used it a little bit longer, it may have turned into that. But since I only got to use it for that day, it just wasn't my thing. And then a lot of people actually end up sending theirs back or they sold it, So maybe it wasn't their thing either. But yeah, I think they could have did a few things to kind of make it better. Do I think it's a bad product? No, it was not a bad product at all. I think it could have been something really good, but just like I thought, and just like how I said on previous videos to this, I did not foresee it being this big dog of a thing to where it's going to take over the whole MPC community and just shut it down. I knew that from the jump. And for everybody who was saying, Bolo, you just got to give it some time, watch what happens. It's crickets out here. It's a few videos, but a lot of the videos are like from a year ago, like from when it first dropped. So it's a few videos out here, but it ain't like that. So yeah, y'all let me know if there's anything else that I may have missed on in this video, or if there's some things that I may have needed to be corrected on in this video. And, leave that in the comment section and let me know. So either way, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope you guys learned something from it. And like I always say, peace out.